You can be turning to John 13. We're going to get there in just a little bit. John 13. It's so good to see all of you. Some of you I see made it back from the escape route to get here, and we were down that road a few minutes ago too. And great to see. A year takes a long time to roll around to get back here, and so we've been anxious about this. And I know when we leave here tomorrow at the end of our meeting, it's always one of the saddest days for myself and Art, and always sad going down this road. Well, until we get to Wild Man's, is that what it's called? Wild Man's, and Art starts eating ice cream, and that guy can put away some ice cream, and we do look forward to that. So we get over it about that point, and then we start looking forward to next year. But we've missed all of you guys since last July, and look forward to this weekend. Art mentioned this last night, and I know it's true with any congregation that the makeup of a congregation changes from year to year. You can just count on that, and I know that it has here with some that are not with us, some that are new to me and to Art, and our church is back home. Commissary and Greenway both have changed a lot during this year, especially the last couple of months. We've had some deaths and some things that's happened that's done that, and so we pray for you guys here. There's not hardly a day go by that we don't talk about this congregation and what it means to us, and I brag on you guys to Greenway, and I think they'd like to meet all of y'all. I've talked about you enough, and so we do share things about you guys. We love you and appreciate you so much. Tonight we're going to be talking about the 3D Jesus, and I want to talk just a moment about something that happened last month, D-Day. I've always wondered about what D-Day, what the D stood for in D-Day, and we know what that was back in 1944, and largest seaborne invasion in history that took place, and Normandy, and you hear those names with that. But I got to looking, what's that D stand for in D-Day? And come to find out, it stands for day. And so you have day, and so it's kind of an odd phrase. But they had their codes. They had their secret things for how they were going to do things. And so D-Day was kind of that code that you would know what you're talking about, but the enemy out there, other people wouldn't know that. They use H the same way, H for hour. And so they might say on D-Day and H hour, this is what's going to happen. We're going to invade here, or we're going to do this or that. When you use a phrase like D-4, then you're talking about being 4 days out from that time. Well, Monday morning we were getting ready. We left early Monday morning, and I wrote Art about 3:30 or 4, and I said, well, it's D-Day. And he wrote back, and he said, yes, departure day. So that's what it stood for this past Monday for us. But oddly, it means day. And I know that could sound silly, but we can use that term. Probably you have used that thought of, okay, it's D-Day is coming up. Some kind of event in your life, something that kind of changes things in your family maybe. How about this? Do you remember when your kids, if you've had kids that have moved out, that you knew that day was coming up? And so you kind of had it marked on the calendar that they're leaving on this day and they're moving out, and maybe you prayed hard for that day to get there quicker than it actually did. That's a D-Day for you. There may be a moment when you get a call about a grandparent or about a parent that's passed away and gone on to the next life, gone to be with the Lord, and you're never really ready for that, but that's kind of a D-Day for that. Let me show you here something tonight where Jesus came to a D-Day in his life. A point here in John 13, and we'll move a little bit into John 14 as well, but John, as he writes here about Jesus, I'm going to start reading at 33. And let me read through the end of that chapter to begin with here. Jesus says, little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. You will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, where I am going, you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And by this all will know that you're my disciples, if you have love for one another. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus answered, where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterward. Peter said to him, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for your sake. And Jesus answered him, will you lay down your life for my sake? Most assuredly I say to you, the rooster shall not crow till you have denied me 3 times. I'm going to stop there for a moment. There's a moment when Jesus knows what's about to happen in his life. And he's in a room where the rest of the people, they don't know what really is about to happen, even though he's been talking about it. But he's going to be stripped. He's going to be beaten. He's going to be mocked. He's going to be crucified. And he says, okay, I'm leaving you. Need you to understand that. I'm leaving you. And the disciples here, they're confused about it. Obviously they don't want it to happen, but they say, wait a second, now time out here, Lord. Where are you going? We want to go with you. And Jesus said, you can't go right now. Later on, but right now you can't go. And so Jesus turns to him there in verse 1 of 14. And he says, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Let's stop there. Jesus, when he sees how confused and how worried, how concerned they are here, there's a comfort that he tries to bring them. And so he says here, don't let your heart be troubled. You believe in God, he says, believe also in me. Now, what Jesus is saying here is, I'm right here for you. I'm right here with you, and it's going to be okay. My son was about 8 years old. One night when we pulled into our house there in Paragould, I just preached in a gospel meeting in Brighton, Tennessee, and we came back. It was late, and the kids needed to be in bed, getting ready for school, and so it was at that point that I realized every key that we had to the house was inside the house, and I really didn't know this house yet, so I'm looking, I'm checking doors, windows, trying to figure out how can I break into this house, and couldn't find anything, and finally I realized that there was a back window that had a little air conditioner unit in it, and that's the window that I could actually put my son through. I couldn't, it was too little for me. Nobody else in our family, my daughter, she was about 5, and she wasn't going to do it, and so it was my son is the only one that could be able to go through this. But he looked inside and he said, Dad, it is dark in there. And he asked, what if a monster is in the house? And so I said, son, it's late. You need to be in bed, and we've got to do this. And if the lights are right over, the switch is right over there. You just go in and flip that switch. You're going to have lights. Then you can go through the house, go to the front door, and open it. We'll be there for you. Do that and you won't be scared anymore. It was at this point I realized really the total of what a little 8-year-old boy is scared of is going through a house, a dark house, late at night, all alone. That was his fear at this point. And I tried to assure him, this is a monster-free house. In fact, we had it sprayed for monsters, and he didn't really buy that for some reason. But son, it'll just take you 5 seconds to have the lights on. And I could see his little mind, it was calculating what a monster could do in 5 seconds. It wouldn't take long for a monster to do some damage. But I said, son, I'm going to be right here at this window. Your mom's out front. All you need to do is get through there, and you're going to be okay. And his question was, are you sure, Dad? You sure you're going to be there? And I said, I've got you, son. I'm here for you. And I think of that, and I think of Jesus talking to his disciples here. It's kind of like they're in a dark room. They're in a dark time for them. And he's telling them, hey, I got you. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through this. In fact, he says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And he said that I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you. Now, that's exciting. You think about the setting that's going on here. The disciples are struggling here, and Jesus trying to comfort them. Don't let your heart be troubled. Now he says, hey, I'm going away, but I'm preparing a place to come back and take you to. And so I can imagine the disciples there just being excited, and their facial expressions change, and they're happy about what he just said. And then Thomas, though, says, actually, Lord, I don't know where you're going. So I need some help with this. Well, do you ever like that? You ever like Thomas sometimes? Paul, do you know the way? Well, I think I do. I hope I do. Lord, I need to be sure I know the way. And so what the Lord does here in this text, he's going to clear up their view for them. He's going to make them see this very clearly. And that's where I want to talk about Jesus and 3D vision here. How many of you have gone to a movie where it was a 3D movie and you had to put on the little glasses? Anybody go to those? That's weird. I mean, the glasses are kind of weird, and putting those on, and I don't enjoy 3D movies. But I did a little research to try to find out, when did 3D movies start? And I was amazed at what I found out about this. If I ask you when it started, what year would you say? Would you say in the 2000s? Would you say in the 1900s? Would you say in the 1800s or further? Well, everybody remember the Viewmaster that came out? The little thing that you pull the slide and it spins, a little circle disc, and never lands on the right spot. You always have to adjust it and get it in the right spot. But all of a sudden you're kind of swimming with sharks, and it was a neat little toy that we had as kids. But the first 3D movie actually came out in France, and it was 1.5 minutes long. And it was an exhibit at a fair going on. And it was of a train pulling through a train station. And the title of the video was A Train Pulling Through a Train Station. They didn't get very... But the year was 1859. And Art was not even a teenager at this point. That's how long ago it was. And they had their glasses. It was kind of somewhat a version of these glasses we have today. And the people were watching this in this place they had. It scared them to death. I mean, they saw this train coming right at them, and they all jumped up screaming and running out of this building. It scared them watching this 3D movie. Let me share this passage here with you where Jesus says something in 3D. And once you see what he's saying, you can't unsee it. I mean, it's there. It's going to be in your mind. He says it in verse 6. You know this verse here. He said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus says, there is no other way. I am the way. Now, that's an exclusive statement there that he makes. He says that I am the way. I've had adults do this. I've had college students do this as well, where they say, so you're saying that Jesus is the only way to heaven? And I tell them, I'm not saying that. Jesus is saying that. And Jesus, whatever Jesus is teaching, that's what I'm going to teach. He's the one saying this to us, and I believe what he said, and I want to be able to teach what he does. You want to hear some more proof? Think about the apostle that was with him and what he said in Acts chapter 4 and verse 12. We know that's Peter, and Peter had just watched these things transpire. He just watched Jesus die. He just watched the resurrection, the ascension, the Holy Spirit coming, and he's out there preaching on the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2. And then a couple of chapters later, he says this. He said, "Nor is there salvation in any other. There's no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved." And so here's Peter. Here, he's someone that knew Jesus. He's someone that loved Jesus, that he heard Jesus preach, that he was appointed by Jesus to preach himself. And he stepped down kind of out of the pulpit for just a little bit here, and he said, I need to tell you that Jesus, he's the way. Peter says there's no other way for salvation. It's through Christ. He's the way, and he is the truth. He is the life. Peter's there when Jesus says this. And so he knows it's the truth, and he knows that Jesus is the way. Let me give you three thoughts out of verse 6 here, the 3 D's here of Jesus. He says that I am, number one, he says, I am the way. And what we're going to look at with that is, that's our direction. Jesus is talking about our direction here. Jesus is the path to God. I need you to hold your spot there, John, but let's go to Ephesians chapter 2. And look at verses 18 through 20. Paul says, "For through him we both have access by one Spirit to the Father. Now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and the members of the household of God, having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building, being fitted together, grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you are also being built together for a dwelling place of God in the Spirit." He said there, for through him, through Jesus, we both have access by one Spirit to the Father. Now, he speaks here about a road. He's talking about a path. He's talking about a way here. And this is not the first time the Jewish people here that in this time heard about that heard about the way. And the Jews, in fact, Psalms talks about the path quite a bit. Isaiah would talk about the holy highway. And so the Jews, they had this image in their mind of this path. It kind of came from the Old Testament in their studies. And so here you've got the Jews that they look at this path, they look at this way, they look at this access, and they might tell you at this point that way is obedience. That way is keeping the 10 Commandments. It's reading the Torah. It's reading the old law and keeping that old law. Jesus come along, though, and he said, hey, I respect the law. In fact, I came to fulfill the law. But Jesus says the law is not the way. And I can tell you this, the way is not just us doing a lot of good things. The way is not just us showing up at church services. The way is not just us being kind to other people. Those things are important, don't get me wrong. That's a part of who we are. But Jesus said, I am the way. It's not the law. It's not goodness and kindness. I am the way. Jesus says it's me. We sing the song, I don't know if it's in this book, there's just one way to the pearly gate. I love that song. And it's Jesus said, that's me. You're talking about me. I am the way. There's not a bunch of different ways, Jesus says, that leads to heaven in this life. He says there's one, and I am, he tells the disciples, I am that direction. And so I need you to understand that. The road that to the Father, he says, leads through me. If you want to get there, then it's got to be through me. So we look at it and we say, okay, Jesus, why should I believe you? Why should I believe what you're saying? Well, remember, this is the Jesus that performed miraculous things that they had seen. This is the man that rose from the dead. This is the one that did things that nobody had ever done before. And yet he went around doing these things. And it's that same Jesus that Paul writes to the Ephesians that we just read and says, we have access to the Father through this man that did all these things. He told the apostles here, I am the direction. You want to know the direction? You want to know the way? He said, that's me. I am that. Here's number 2. He said, I am the truth. Okay, we got to have a D word. So the truth is decision. That we have to make a decision. I want you to go to John chapter 8. And let's look at verses 31 and 32. John chapter 8. You're familiar with this too. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed him, if you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth, he says, shall make you free. You know, we live according to what we believe. In other words, how you believe will impact how you act. Okay, a lot of, most of you are believers in God. You're believers in Jesus. And so how are you going to act tomorrow? Well, tomorrow's the Lord's day. It's a day you come, you worship, you do those things. And how are you going to act Monday? Well, you have some Christian values about you because of who you are. So your beliefs affects your actions during your life. Jesus says, I am the way. But he said, I am the truth. And if you'll notice there, go back to John 14, verse 6 there. Notice how he words that. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. He didn't say, I'm a truth out there. I'm just a way out there. But he said, I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. Jesus is saying here that he's the truth. And so there again, there's that exclusive claim that he's making here. He's saying there's no other truth out there concerning God other than himself here, what he has. No other truth is going to lead you to God. Jesus says, I am that truth. There's no other. My question I want you to think about tonight is do you believe in your heart that Jesus is the way, that he is the truth, that he is the life? Do you believe that about your life? Because there probably are some people that you may know that might say, oh, I believe Jesus was a great man from what I've read of him. I believe he did some extraordinary, miraculous things. I believe that. But do you believe he's the truth? And they may say, not necessarily. He may be a truth, but not necessarily. And so this is where I have a problem, because Jesus makes this statement here, and I think it's one of those that's very clear. I am the way and the truth and the life. And then when he follows that up with, no one comes to the Father except through me, there's a lot of clarity there to me. And so it doesn't leave room open for any other way. It's through Jesus. So to the ones that feel that way, that I've come across, you have to ask there, okay, do you think Jesus was lying when he said this kind of statement? Do you think that maybe he just was wrong in what he was saying? No, he said, I am the truth. And the only reason he said, I am the truth, it's because he loves you. He loves every one of us. And he says that he wants you to know the truth. What John 8 say? It said, the truth shall set you free. Let me say it again. The truth, he said, will set you free. And he said, I am that. I am that to you. I'm the truth. We have our direction. We have our decision. And we need another D word here. The last part there, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Well, our D word here is going to be do it. We've got to live it. He's the life. We've got to live that life. Art has a granddaughter named Life. She goes by Zoe. That's the word that's used here is for life. And Jesus says, I am that. I'm that way. I'm that life here. I am that Zoe. And I want you to look in 1 John. John would write this as well. 1 John chapter 5, verses 11 and 12. He'll use this word here in this text as well. And this is the testimony that God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have life. You see him using it several times there. But verse 11 again, this is the testimony. God has given us eternal life. And this life is in who? It's in the Son in it. That's the one we're talking about in John 14. That's the Son there. That's the one that is the way and the truth and the life. It's been a couple of years ago. I was a campus minister for a number of years at CRC, and we always took a fall retreat, and it would be in the Branson, Missouri area. If you're familiar with that area, it's a neat area. Silver Dollar City's there, and different things. We'd have a spiritual retreat, and one of the things that we did on one afternoon was I would take them to Silver Dollar City, and we'd spend the time together, kind of enjoy that fellowship with one another, and so Coach Mac is what I'm known as around campus, and so they had just completed this new roller coaster there, and it was supposed to be the next big thing, the scariest thing. I mean, it was one of those things that especially for an old man, I didn't want to go down it. But the college students, they said, "Come on, Coach Mack, you ride this coaster with us." And I said, "No, thank you. I'm not going to do that." They said, "You gotta ride this." I said, "I ain't got to ride it," but I did. And I remember as we began to climb that peak, we're in the front row. Me, this one guy, he was a baseball player of mine, and it's a big, stout guy, and so he's the one that wanted me. So we're in the front row of this thing, and then click, 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 click. It gets to the top of this thing, and the bottom just falls out. And I feel like we are falling to the end of the world. And this kid, I look over, he's got his head in my side, crying like a little baby, and just screaming, and you know, we get to the bottom, and we run back into the station there, and he said, "Let's do it again, Coach." And he said, "That was so thrilling." He said, "I've never felt so alive." I said, "We almost died down there." "What do you mean you feel alive?" Well, let's say we were in the front row, and you know, when you leave a thing, you can go over, and they've got a photo booth where it shows you the picture of you at that moment that you hit, And so this guy, his hair is sticking straight up. He's got his face in my side, and his mouth's open screaming. And I did have my eyes closed. I'll admit that, because I didn't want to see the wreck when we got there. But that was the last roller coaster ride I will ever take in my life. But he said, I've never felt so alive. Jesus says, I am your life. I'm your way, I'm your truth, but I'm also your life. That's Jesus in 3D there. That's Jesus saying that I'm your direction, I'm the way, that I'm your decision. You need to make that decision about me, but you need to do it too. You need to live your life, and I am that life. I think about D-Day. I don't know when your D-Day was in your life where you became a Christian. You probably remember that date. Mine was in August, and a long time ago, and that's a special date to me. I don't know when yours is, or if it's come yet. It may not happen in your life where you made that decision to follow the one that said, I'm the way to God. If you want to go to the Father, then it's through me. Well, July the 17th would be a good D-Day if that needs to happen in your life. It may be tonight as you think about your life and you think about Christ and your faith, that you need to pray about it. And as a church, we want to help you any way we can. If it's to become a Christian tonight, be baptized into Christ, then let's make that happen. Let's stay together and let's sing.